Welcome to another exciting episode of Coffee on Ngong, being the first Tuesday of the month of November 2025. I am your host, Wangeshi.
And I'm your co-host, Jean-Pascal Kagaloba.
And of course, this is your go-to place where you want to feel updated on everything that is happening globally around 254 and in Africa. And since the last week we were here, a lot has happened. And of course, the first thing was the elections in Tanzania, which has, gotten a lot of attention globally. A conversation about democracy have begun, having followed on what has been happening in Tanzania. Of course, Sudan has also been on the spotlight with a lot of atrocities being documented by human rights organizations. And we're coming back to 254. IEBC has released the numbers of guys who have registered as new voters as we head to the elections in 2027. And of course, we're going to touch base in what's happening in Elgeyo Marakwet, where we've lost loss of lives to landslides. That's all for me on my end in terms of what has been happening in and out 254. Maybe my co-host Pascal can walk us through what he has in store for us.
So from building on from what Wangeshi has spoken about the results of the elections in Tanzania, there's also elections that were taken all over Africa, from Cameroon to Ivory Coast, and also in Tanzania, where like all those elections have been met with a lot of disruption and protests out of like the results of the incumbent leaders. So yeah, we're gonna delve into that as the show goes on. We also have to take a look at what's happening in Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
The persecution of Christians there, and also how President Trump and the U.S. troops have been called into action, and they've actually threatened a warning to tell the Nigerians that sort this out yourselves, or we are ready to take action. And he has done that through the Pentagon, and they're basically just waiting for the final word, and they shall be on their way to Nigeria to try and help solve that whole issue going on there. Moving on to the UK, as many of you may know about the Jeffrey Epstein list. There's a very prominent name on there, which happens to be current King Charles III's younger brother, Andrew, formerly known as Prince Andrew, but his status has been stripped away due to his connection to that whole, escapade of the Epstein list and the island. And also from building on from what we've been talking about last episodes about the Louvre heist, the jewels are still missing, and there are new people in custody. So it's quite an entertaining story unfolding. And yeah, in terms of sports, there were some games last night / this morning for the NFL, results over the weekend for the Premier League, and tonight and tomorrow night there'll be games in the Champions League. So we'll just briefly go over that, and yeah, that's what I have on my side.
All right. Remember, it's Coffee on Ngong. Of course, this particular episode is sponsored by Backyard Coffee.
By Backyard Coffee and Pay Soko.
Yeah, in partnership with Pay Soko. And remember, keep the conversation going. I forgot to do that after you. But it's okay. It's still some very nice coffee.
Yeah.
Remember, you can keep the conversation going by following us on all our social media platforms, which is Niplug. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get to catch all the other episodes of Coffee on Ngong Road and more content from the Niplug studios. And I'll dive first into the IEBC. Of course, IEBC.
Yes.
It's the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. Of course, it's the registration of new voters has been going on at a time when Kenya experienced the Gen Z revolution that really people are saying it is what has inspired most of these African countries. We've seen Tanzania follow suit, we've seen Madagascar and all those other countries follow suit. But I think the main thing, even when we had the Gen Z, demonstration, was call for bad leadership. And when you talk about bad leadership, the only thing we can do is by using your vote. Yeah. So IEBC has released the number of guys who have registered, and Nairobi actually tops the list of guys who have registered, followed closely by Kiambu County. But again, there's also been concern the numbers are not as high as you expected, following the conversations on social media and people, trying to build up those conversations around guys voting. And I've seen guys telling people, please, we are not going to vote on social media. So we cannot just be ranting on social media saying how we want to elect new voters, and yet the young people are still not going to register for, to so that they can take part in the election. So I think it's a wake-up call. Or do you think sometimes guys rant, there's this whole thing of keyboard warriors, yeah? You're
Yeah.
just fighting online, but when it is time to go and vote, you're not even going to vote. When it's time to go and fight for something, probably, government misusing our funds and we have demos, you're just, Ama, is it something that, you can just stick to your online and fight, Ama, you need to take action? Because I think that's the conversation that is going on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I do think that, and I think I had mentioned sort of around that whole topic in last week's episode
Yeah.
about like a lot of these, Gen Zs that were protesting or having that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think they really understood what was going on. They were just doing it
Yeah.
because it was sort of like the trending thing to do at the time, Later on
Yeah.
in their life, they'd be like, yes, out of that mandamano, yes, out of that protest.
Yeah.
But now when it's time to actually like take action,
Yeah.
because let's face it, I don't know many people, not even just Gen Zs, but people in general. I don't know how many people are willing to, stand in a line waiting to like, go get a voter's card or stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's not something that I see many people willing to go ahead and do.
Yeah.
So I think in some way they think that, okay, if I can fight the fight online, let me do that. If
Yeah.
that's my space where I feel comfortable, let me operate in that space.
Yeah.
But now going out and taking action is where they struggle with. And I think that's where, now the real change is actually made, So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a, it's a bittersweet moment. It's good that, you have the online warriors.
Yeah.
At the same time, you also need people actually on the ground trying to make, that change. So,
Yeah. As at now, IEBC records that we have like 90,000 new registered voters, which is, a little lower as what we were expecting, because it's been a month of guys being told to register as voters and all that. So I think to the young people who are watching, yes, it's good to fight. Yes, it's good to be very vocal and say this is what we want. These are the leaders we want. And by then, the only thing we can do is by your vote. So if you're not registering as voters, then we're just fighting and, a losing battle, yeah? So come on, any Gen Z and you've been fighting, it's very good to see you guys are very, interested, current issues and leadership and everything, and calling out leaders who are not performing. But again, it's a wake-up call. If you don't get that voters card, utakuwa tu unapiga kelele na hakuna kitu inaendelea. So as we move on, as a process is ongoing, tafadhali kama haujachukua kura, changamka, because I believe we should be more than 1 million new voters, this younger generation.
Yeah, that's true. But I think, if you look at it also on the other side, I think maybe, they could be having this thought process of, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Maybe not them themselves personally, but maybe their older siblings or their parents have told them.
Yeah.
If you look back at what happened maybe in 2007, there's this ongoing like narrative that people went to bed knowing that, the late Honorable Raila was waking up as president.
Yeah.
But come morning, it was a whole different, with Kibaki, retaining the presidency.
Yeah.
The same thing happened now again with Raila, with Uhuru Kenyatta. So I think, they might have this perception of, okay, but does my vote really matter?
Yeah, it's they've always mentioned about that voter apathy, where people just feel like, even if I vote, what is gonna happen?
Does it really matter?
Yeah,
does my voice actually mean or count towards something?
Yeah, imagine I'm one of those person who I have never failed to go and vote all those times ever since 2021. I think 2017 was the first time I was voting. I've voted every other time. I feel like my vote really matters, as much as sometimes the results don't go how I was expected. I just feel, you know what, I did my part as a citizen.
I think I don't want to cause any controversy around it.
Yeah.
But I honestly look at the elections that have been ongoing in Kenya.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm from Congo. But I don't think I've ever seen or witnessed any sort of like voting thing in history whereby the results are sort of seen as a surprise to most people.
Yeah.
Because you see, like in Congo, when we have our elections, like 90% of people already know that this person is gonna win,
Yeah.
and it comes to fruition. I think the same in Nigeria. You know, the same as in Cameroon. Like, you know, what happened last week with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
90-year-old, you know, president.
Yeah.
Like, there was not much of like, oh no, he can't win again. I mean, there was disruption of like, oh, he won again.
Yeah.
It was more of like he won again because like, again, you know, it wasn't
Yeah.
more of like, oh my God, he actually won.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at even to the world of sports, if you just look at, you know, the results that are normally come through like voting, there's not much of a surprise.
Yeah.
It's only like, you know, in small sectors of like, you know, that I've only seen with the Kenyan elections. I just wonder like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand now where people how have that narrative of does my vote really matter?
Yeah, exactly. And talking about elections, I think we're going to jump straight to Tanzania because, you know, these African elections have really brought up conversation on a global, you know, platforms in terms of how, you know, independent are electoral bodies across Africa. Are they really independent? Do they get, you know, are they like, you know, I don't know what word to use, you know, compromised, you know, by either people in power or, you know, people actually who are vying, because we've actually witnessed what has happened in Tanzania. And I think last time we talked about Tanzanian election, we didn't know how things are going
How we're
to
going to unfold,
unfold.
yeah.
Yeah, and we have seen what has happened in Tanzania. And yes, is it yesterday that Samia Suluhu was sworn in as the president? Yeah, and she's gonna be in power until 2030. And I heard something very interesting that, you know, the court systems in Tanzania, you know, like Kenya, how we are used to petition about, you know, elections and you're gonna go to high court and whatnot. I think I heard, I'm not very sure, maybe you can correct me on what you've heard. I heard, you know, you cannot like
Dispute the results.
yeah, you cannot petition, you cannot go to court. The judicial system in Tanzania is tied, and the final results that were announced, that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means really.
No, I think I kind of heard something similar to what you said because I remember last time I mentioned that I used to have
Yeah.
a Tanzanian girl.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, you know, I was just checking in on like, you know, how things are in Tanzania because, you know, there was like a blackout and everything. So I was just like worried, like, hey, you know, are things all right? Like, you know.
Yeah.
And she was telling me like, you know, yeah, things are okay. Like, but like, you know, there's a lot of like, you know, heartbreak and a lot of like, you know, abductions and killings. So R.I.P. to those who lost
Yeah.
their lives, and you know, may your families be comforted during this bereavement period.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, that thing for when there's elections, there's always has to be like a negative story about
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
You
In
know?
Africa, it's becoming like every electoral
It's a
period,
norm.
there's a
It's
lot of
becoming a
tension,
norm, yeah.
there's a lot of, you know, uncertainty of what
Yeah.
might unfold.
And now that begs the question, you know,
Yeah.
do you think like countries or states, you know, do you think that there'll be more peace if like, you know, they were ruled in a like in a kind of a monarch way? Like, you know, you already know the line of succession.
They are like,
You know, because I don't see, you know, like the countries or the states that have, you know, kings and queens or
yeah.
emperors. I
You
don't,
know who is going
I
to
don't
come
see
next.
much like, you know, like, let me say public outrage or
Yeah.
public hatred, you know,
Yeah.
sort of like, you know, you sort of know who's gonna take over. But when like, it's like maybe like, you know, everybody's trying to vie for that.
Yeah.
That's where like, you know, tension comes because this one comes with their agenda. Their agenda. That she just becomes like a whole melting point of like a lot of tension. I don't know.
Me, I wouldn't support that, but one thing
I'm not saying I support. I'm just saying like I wonder if like such a debate has ever like, you know, crossed people's minds or like, you know,
me something
are
that
we getting it wrong here or
me something that's crossed my mind would be we have one-term presidents. You know, like when your term is done, you can never vie again, and you'll never be. I think that personally, I've always thought maybe we could have, you know, I don't know, different countries, you know, work differently, different constitutions. But personally, for Africa, I feel like, you know, one term, and then this African president will push one term to 20 years. That's what they would do.
I was actually about to like, you know, speak on
Yeah.
that. I mean that the idea is good.
Yeah.
It's something that I think on paper is quite viable and be like, yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking if you're coming as the head of state in a like a war-torn country,
Yeah.
like let's say DRC, I don't think 5 years will be enough for you to like actually like do
Start to rebuild that country.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it's if it's somebody like, you know, you're actually like, you know, interested and you're being serious about rebuilding the country, you know, being a good president, being a good steward for that country. I don't know if 5 years would be enough to reverse the damage already done and then come about.
Yeah.
Because if you look at a state like a country like Rwanda, you can say whatever it is you want to say about their president Paul Kagame.
Yeah.
But you see, he has had 20 something years to make Rwanda how Rwanda is.
Yeah.
As I said, people have their stories about him. They have the negative, they have the positive.
True.
But if you look at Rwanda from outside looking in, you just see this beauty, of Kigali, the beauty of, Gisenyi,
Yeah.
Those are the stories that come across. I mean, they have sponsors with Arsenal.
Yeah.
They visit Rwanda on the sleeves. You see, I don't think that can be done in a presidential term of 5 years.
True.
It's something I think will need time.
Yeah, and also something that has caught attention, in relation to Tanzania's election. Remember, human rights bodies, as much as there's also something about silencing the journalists. You've seen journalists come out and say they were denied accreditation to go and cover Tanzanian election. And this is not the first time. I heard one of the Kenyan celebrated journalists, Larry Madowo, say, he was supposed to cover Tanzanian election, but not even during this electioneering period in Tanzania. Tanzanian journalists have historically, even the time of Magufuli, and things have not changed with Samia Suluhu, that journalists, the freedom of speech in Tanzania has really been, they have been, I don't know how
silenced.
to say it. Yeah. Like journalists, many journalists, international journalists were not able to go to Tanzania. We saw even international media houses, their correspondents were reporting live in Nairobi, they were not in Dar es Salaam.
Yeah.
You could not get footage from our friends who are journalists in Tanzania because some of them were locked in the house. But again now, Samia Suluhu, during her acceptance speech when she was taking oath, to her new term, which ends in 2030, she talked about the protests because, protests erupted during that whole period, with the opposition saying the elections were null and void, there is no way you can win, and the main opposition was not in the ballot. And I could hear her say, oh, I want to thank, she's so soft-spoken. I want to thank the 16 people who are, contesting for the seat for a very democratic process. But again, it also raises a question, female presidency, which is something that Africa has been fighting, which is something, my question is, what picture has she really painted when it comes to female presidents? It's somebody we were looking up to as the East African, community. We were really proud we were having our first female president. But I'm left wondering, has she really done us as women actually proud? Are we proud to be associated with her, as fellow women in Africa? Because I feel personally as Wangeshi, this is not Niplag's opinion, it's mine. I feel like she has really failed us as women in terms of how she has carried the elections, what we've had, even the opposition coming up to say they were apart from election, her saying that even the protesters, some were not from Tanzania, just her sentiments. And even President Ruto going ahead and just congratulating her. It also begs a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you think about the whole issue. And again, going back to election as a Gen Z, you'll get a poll down there. Are you going to register as a voter? Are you going to vote? And also as a woman, we would love to hear, and I would love to hear your opinion. Do you feel like she has failed us as women, Maybe you can just give a bit.
I'll give a very brief response.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be cancelled. Man.
Yeah, true.
But I do think she has had some sort of like an you say she's soft spoken, but I think she has sort of had like some sort of an authoritarian sort of style of leadership.
True.
And for me, it's like you always sort of like think about it like, okay, I don't know if is it that thing of a sheep in wolf's clothing or something like that.
Yeah.
So she might be like coming portrayed as I'm a soft spoken lady, but deep down she's actually like a lion or a wolf, waiting to pounce on stuff. And also you also have to wonder, like, if you surround yourself with wolves, you'll end up showing characteristics of wolves.
True.
So I don't want to blame her or blame, but, maybe she came in and she had ideas, but, she was also sort of like, in a way silenced, because if she's around all these men, I don't know about who her government is, but if it's a mostly male dominated, like,
Yeah.
cabinet,
Mm.
will your ideas really,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, there were conversations that she faced a lot of opposition from Magufuli's allies.
because I'm not even in any way being misogynistic here, but
Yeah, yeah.
I do not believe in an African continent at the time we are right now. A woman's ideas will be the one that will be, ticked like yes
Yeah.
in a room full of men.
True.
I would listen to it. I
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
But I just don't believe that Africa at the moment is at the space whereby, our fathers are the ones, not like not our dads,
Yeah,
but like,
yeah.
the age, that age group
Yeah.
are the ones who are like now being made to make these decisions. I don't think they're gonna sit down
Yeah.
and be like, oh, that's actually a very interesting one, idea, They'll be like, "Ah, no, you're a woman, you don't understand this.
Yeah.
So I think I might be looking at it positively. Maybe that's what has happened to her.
Yeah.
Maybe she's been a victim of that. Nobody's to know, and apart from herself and the
Yeah,
people around her in that
true.
room.
True.
But yeah, in terms of failing, to each their own. To each their own.
Let us know what you think about the whole, Tanzania election and stuff. And before we go for a break, of course, we need to talk about what has been happening in Sudan, because it's been a very tough time in Sudan. And of course, this is a war that started, I think, in 2023. Those two generals who are fighting, the one who is they belong to the army. There's one for RSF. I think his name is Mohammed Dagalo. He's not commonly known as Hemedi. He's his paramilitary rapid support forces, which has been accused of being funded by the Arab Emirates. So we do not know what's been happening. But from the conversations I've been, hearing experts talking, those two guys who are, like it's a war of power. They're the same guys who used to work together when they were overthrowing Bashir back then. So it's not known, what has been happening. Others are arguing, Sudan has a lot of resources. Actually, when you talk about gold, it has one of the biggest gold reserves in Africa. So people are wondering, is it an economic war? Is it, vetted interest from outsiders outside, Sudan? But the sad thing that since 2023, almost 150 lives have been lost in Sudan. And as we speak, the RFS is said to have taken, they have kind of taken charge of Al Fasher, which is one of the cities in Darfur. So I don't know what's happening. I do not know if it is a war for, resources, if it is a power war, or what is, because people are arguing it could be people who have, because gold in Sudan is being smuggled across deserts, across everywhere.
Yeah.
And there has also been those conversations. Is it a war to get those resources and all that? So maybe you could tell us on the comments, your views, if you've been following what's been happening in Sudan. I don't know what, what has captured your attention in the whole thing.
I think, just to give like an oversight of your question, and I mean, guys on the comments, you can definitely prove, you can prove me wrong, and I'm no expert.
Yeah.
But you'll never find war in a country or in a state or in a city where there's nothing of outside interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
If your country or state has gold, diamonds, oil, be prepared for war.
Yeah.
Be prepared for war. Because even when you see movies like Black Panther, with the adamantium stuff, vibranium, what happened? Outside interest came in, and war broke out.
Yeah.
So every single place that has these areas of like these gold reserves, diamonds, and everything, unfortunately, you're gonna be a target for, Western allies, or even like, people within your country, because once you have control over that, you basically can become the richest person in that place, because you now have the opportunity to now contract with these outside companies looking for these things, and you make yourself millions and billions. But just to end on a very, like, not like a very sad, profound moment, is that, apparently, like, due to the bloodshed, there have been like satellite images that have been done in a research lab in Yale University.
Yeah.
And like, there's so much like, blood and dead bodies that from the satellites in space, you can see the dots of where bodies have been piled up,
Yeah.
And there's actually like an image that when the episode is being aired will, like, show that graphic where like you just see the dark spots
Yeah.
And that's spots of dead bodies and blood. So imagine a radius of, like, let's say this table, 60% of this table is covered with dark spots.
Yeah.
That's how much bloodshed has been. So, our hearts really do go out to those in Sudan, and.
Yeah, because again, in any country when there is war, whether it's power war, power wrangles, the people who suffer are the civilians,
Yeah.
the civilians, women and children actually are hit the most when countries, get to war. And remember, it's Coffee on Ngong Road. We'll be coming back with my colleague walking us down some of the stories he has in store for us. Remember, this particular episode is proudly sponsored by Backyard Coffee.
And Pace Systems. Cheers. You cheers coffee.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Remember, it's Coffee on Ngong Road, and of course, keep the conversation interactive on our social media platforms at Niplug. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, name them, and make sure you leave some of your comments or feedback on our pages. Remember, this particular episode is proudly sponsored by Backyard Coffee, and I want to tell you something. Oh, Pace Systems. I wanted to tell you something that I know you will like. Yeah. Apparently, dogs sense feelings, like they smell your scent when you're happy or you're sad. Of course, you know that.
Yeah. As a proud dog dad, I know that.
A parent dog. How do they behave when you're happy and when you're sad?
It's not just about, like, being happy or sad. Like, they just mimic the aura that you're oozing.
Yeah.
So if you're happy, your dog will be bouncy. But if you're, like, stressed or agitated, your dog will show signs that they're also stressed and agitated. So yeah.
Recently there's a time I was with my son and I pretended to cry. He hit me like, boys and they have a lot of energy. So he, fell on me and he has a lot of weight and clearly I felt some pain. I was like, He's like, why are you crying? Anywho. Welcome back to this particular episode, and of course, as you've mentioned, it's Backyard Coffee and Pace Systems, and of course, this is your go-to place where you need all the updates, happening, sports, name them, everything. We are your go-to place, and I had talked about most of the stuff I had mentioned at the beginning of this particular episode, and we cross over to my co-host Pascal, who's gonna walk us through what he has in store for us.
Okay, so you talked about, like, what's happening in the political scene in Africa with the elections, but there's also, like, a side of it to the religious aspect, and I'm talking about what's happening in Nigeria at the moment. There's been a lot of killings and persecutions against Christians, and it's been such a very powerful, moving event that has even gotten the attention of President Trump and the U.S. troops. He has given out a warning to Nigeria: either sort this out or we're coming in to sort it out for you. So he has given notice to the Pentagon that they are very ready and willing to be boots on the ground in Nigeria as soon as he gives the word. So I mean, it's a bit heartbreaking knowing that in 2025 we're still, like, going through persecutions based on, like, your race, your religion. These are things you used to read about in the Bible.
I remember there's a time I met a journalist from Nigeria. Actually, it was interesting because we had gone for a conference on religion reporting, how we, report religion matters in Africa and, just, around the globe. And, him being a journalist and him coming from Nigeria, you could tell how this thing is actually very intense, in Nigeria, the war between the Christians and the Muslims. I think there's some states that, have a larger population of, Muslims. Yeah. So it's quite unfortunate.
Actually, one thing that I've sort of, like, learned growing up, I used to think, like, it's a very ignorant thing, but when I was growing up, I thought, like, all Africans, or, like, in fact, the whole world was a Christian, Like, when you started learning, like, religious studies, you start knowing about the Hinduism, Buddhists, So I didn't know that the west of Africa is predominantly a Muslim, side of Africa. So, you know, like growing up, you see these Nigerian movies, and it's always a pasta. So
Yeah,
you always
yeah,
thought that
true.
they are a Christian nation. But there's a huge, huge number of Muslims
Yeah.
in Nigeria and the whole of West Africa, as I said earlier. But like, it's really like, you know, disheartening, you know, having to read or see what such archaic things are still ongoing in, you
Yeah.
know,
And what do you think fuels, that animosity between these, religious groups?
I mean, I honestly don't know, but I think it's just comes down to like who who sells the better story, you know?
Yeah.
Like I think there's a lot of like brainwashing being involved as well, you know, also disrespect to each other's religion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's no fire without a little bit of smoke, you know? So I think there's been some sort of like small seeds have been planted in to get that reaction because I can't understand or fathom why I would just go in and start killing people because they're not Christian like me,
Yeah.
you know, or they're not Muslim like me. It's very disheartening, but it's gone to a point whereby Trump, you know, he said he has warned the Nigerian government, if you don't take control over this, like, and stop the killing of Christians, they're going to be cutting off all aid and assistance to Nigeria, and the U.S. troops will be coming in guns a-blazing to
Yeah.
put a stop to that. And I think that's why I think a lot of like men support Trump, you know.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to religious, conflicts, because, if I bring it back home, there was a period when, there was a bit of animosity when, the Christians in Kenya were arguing that people are being radicalized to join, the Muslim religion. And there was a lot, you realize when it's, religious war mostly is fueled by a lot of misinformation,
Yeah.
right? Because even Christians back then, the conversations in the neighborhoods was like people are being forced to join the Muslim religion for them to join Al-Shabaab, which was
Yeah.
clearly a lot of misinformation. And I realized I learned that Muslim leaders actually now started dialogues with the Christian leaders to make sure what is being fueled, because mostly it's narratives that are not even, a lot of disinformation, misinformation. So again, I think even in Nigeria, if I was to suggest, I know I'm just a normal Kenyan in Kenya, but I think religious leaders are the one who are going to calm down these
Yeah,
tensions.
that's the only way it's gonna go because, like, you know, with the late Pope Francis,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if he was the first, but he was definitely a pope that was, you know, seen meeting with other religious leaders. You know,
Yeah.
he went to meet with the Orthodox church leader, with the Muslim, you know, with every single religious leader to just like promote this whole thing of peace. You know, there's religion, and then, you know, you can live coexisting like in happiness.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause even personally, when I meet, you know, an individual from a different belief,
Yeah.
you know, and let's say like, you know, we've gotten to that place where we can talk openly about this thing. I'm always very interested in learning and finding out more about that religion.
Yeah.
You know, because how am I going to, you know, make an informed decision on something if I don't know the whole story?
Yeah, true.
You know, so like, why not just like, you know, educate myself so I can educate my children, and, you know, that tradition gets passed along.
Yeah.
Because if something as small as misinformation or misguidance can cause thousands of deaths, I mean, it's something that you should just take a breather, step back, you know, and just learn about it. You know? So I said it's very disheartening to like see such an archaic thing happening in today's age. Yeah, you know, hopefully things do die down there, and like, you know, hopefully Trump doesn't have to go there.
Yeah, I know,
Because if
right?
he does, I think like things will just get worse, you know.
Yeah, and also now even Trump, if Trump wants to to come and help the situation, of course you'll hear those conversations. Is Africa ever free? How comes we are never able to deal with our in-house problems? We have then the people will come. Vetted interest will also now come in.
Have you ever heard this saying that, you know, it's in the Bible, you know, you can remove, you know, a speck of dust in somebody else's eye,
Yeah.
but you can't remove the log in yours.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had a chance to sit down with, like, you know, you call them the Wababas,
Yeah.
you know, at a bar, and they're talking about politics, especially world politics. They will literally take down Trump's regime, you know, Macron's regime. But when you ask them about, you know, why their own, like, country is not, performing the way they wanted,
Yeah.
they won't have much answers.
True.
But if it's to, dissect another country's, regime, they'll do it. And I think that's just like, I don't know if it's human nature, but it's very easy to point out the mistakes outside
Yeah.
than to look inwards, you know?
Please leave us a comment and just let us know what in your opinion do you think can be done to end this animosity, especially in Nigeria, because it's been happening for quite a long time, the animosity, the tensions between Christians and the Muslims in some states in Nigeria. We would love to hear from you.
So, moving on, as I said earlier on in the show, we now have what's going on in the UK.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, there was a bloke called Jeffrey Epstein, and he had this private remote island where, the rich and famous, the most like prominent celebrities in Hollywood and around the world would meet up and party.
Yeah.
And before it was just seen as like a luxurious getaway, I'm a billionaire, you're a billionaire. Let's have let's have a secluded party,
Yeah.
But later on, it was found after the first victim came out, just a complete list of offenders came out. Now it became a whole scandal. Even there was a show on Netflix. Jeffrey Epstein took his life in jail. They say he took his life. I don't know if he was killed in jail.
Yeah.
But ever since that, names have just been coming out of that list. And King Charles III's younger brother, well, ex-Prince Andrew, was on that list. So it's been a very public outrage from the British public. They're very disgusted by the unfoldings of that whole scandal, and also having to know that one of theirs was implicated.
Yeah.
It's always good to be like, okay, it's happening there, but it's not here. But when it now comes inside, it's a very
becomes a very personal
very
affair.
personal, and the British are very they're very proud, we're well behaved, we're well mannered.
Yeah.
I mean, etiquette is taught to them ever since they were children. So having been raised from the late Queen Elizabeth, somebody who stood for so much honor and grace.
Yeah.
To now find yourself in such a environment, the family is a bit shaken, to be honest. And King Charles III, he has taken away all the princely titles from his brother. So his name is now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And he's been, King Charles still has love for his brother, I think.
Yeah.
Because he has sort of taken upon himself to get him away from the public. Just get out, don't show your face, don't say anything, just stay away from the cameras. You already caused enough damage, let's try to fix this. So he has been sent away to a private estate owned by King Charles III, and King Charles is funding all of that from his own pockets. So I don't know, what would you do in such a situation? Let's say you have a family member, you've grown up with them, you've loved them your entire life, you've gone to war together. When you find out that they're involved in such a scandal like that, do you completely turn your back on them, or do you do whatever it is possible in your power,
they say it's always hard to completely tie 100% back on your family member. There's always that intuition that it's still family. So sometimes you find yourself in very compromising situations, but you have to to at least do what you can. You don't necessarily want to be involved 100%, but you're gonna do what you can to protect them. So I think he's finding himself in such a situation.
Because it must be if us as commoners find it already hard to do. Now imagine a whole king having to be a king at the same time, have to deal with this, have to make sure there's not more people of his royal family involved. But I mean there's I don't believe that only Andrew could be involved, because if you have such a good deal like that, you must want to share with your family members, especially the ones that would be into this kind of thing. So he's probably also trying to figure out now, are there more of us involved and stuff like that.
True.
So it must be such a he must be having such a really hard time, and also he's ongoing battling cancer.
Yeah.
So he must be thinking wow. Ever since I became, something I've wanted my entire life. But my first years of reign have been absolute. It's
Things
been
are
hard,
just falling
Yeah,
apart.
things have been falling apart.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know in the comments, guys. What would you guys do if, you found out that a member of your family that you have loved, you've grown up with for over 65 years.
Yeah.
How do you feel getting such information, and would you be in a position whereby you completely cut ties off,
Yeah.
or would you try your best in whatever capacity that is to like help and just sort of like calm the tension situation down?
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments. And then moving on now to one of the funner. Is that the correct English word? Funner or more fun?
Funnier.
Funnier. I can see my English is not my first language.
Yeah.
Moving to a funnier story. It's to do with the Louvre heist. For the past episodes of Coffee on Ngong Road, I've been covering this, and up to now.
Yeah.
Remember I said last week that they were given 96 hours?
Yeah.
The whole week later, and they still have no idea where the jewels are. Have no idea.
How can you just disappear out of the radar for all that time? Something is not adding up in that whole heist.
Honestly, you have to beg the question, was this an inside job?
That's what I'm wondering,
because there's no way the most heavily guarded museum
Yeah.
in the world, apart from maybe what's going, like the ancient Egypt vaults and stuff.
Yeah.
There's no way you can just walk out with King Napoleon's treasury like that. Like either these guys are professionals and need like a whole movie docu-series made of them, or there's an inside job going on there.
Yeah, true.
I saw somewhere actually that it might be like an advert campaign. I think like the Louvre, I think there might be opening something new. So I think like this is like trying to gather attention back to the Louvre to now do that big opening night thing. I don't know. A lot of conspiracy theories out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's just stay tuned and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this whole Louvre heist,
Yeah, true. They can also, do they think it's an inside job? Because honestly, you cannot be, you cannot be traced. 2 weeks later, just something is. Yeah.
It's not like you've stolen sugar.
I know.
Like you've stolen the most. No, it's crazy.
Let them know. Let us know.
Let us know
the comments.
Yeah. So, I think you have anything to add, or you can move into the world of sports.
Yeah, we can move to the world of sports, really.
Okay, so over the weekend in the sporting world, there were quite a few fixtures in the Premier League and La Liga as well. I am very pleased to announce that Barcelona bounced back with a 3-1 win.
Yeah.
After the defeat at El Clasico, which is against their bitter rivals Real Madrid. Goals from Marcus Rashford, and what a season he's having over there in La Liga in Spain. He
now plays for Barcelona.
Yeah, in Spain.
The last time I checked, he had been benched for a long time in Manchester United.
I think like sometimes, which I think is a perfect example of like life. If we stay at a place too long and become stagnant,
true.
Move, get that fresh experience. Because when he was loaned out to Aston Villa, started performing again.
Yeah.
Came back to United, stagnant. Now in Barca, he's one of the best attackers in the league at the moment.
Oh, yeah?
I think he has played 12 games, 6 goals, 5 assists. That's 11 goal contributions. That's basically in every game, either assisted or scored.
Yeah. Is he struggling with girls and girlfriends?
There have been stories of him like being with a girl, and then a few months later there's a breakup and there's a new one.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, because honestly, on the pitch, when he's playing, he does look focused on the pitch. He does. Or rather, I'll say he looks more focused now than he did back in Manchester.
Yeah.
I think now that he's gotten away from that toxicity of, because he's an English-born player.
Yeah.
He's black. I'm sorry, but he's black. So there's a lot of like eyes on him in England, like oh, you're seeing clubbing. United are losing games. You're out clubbing. A lot of negativity.
Yeah.
But then in Spain, he's like a nobody. He's just another black guy just living his life, trying to play football and, make money for his,
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference between what's going on in Spain and what he had to go through at Manchester in England. To the Premier League, you know, there was good games as well. It was a very entertaining United versus Nottingham Forest game. Ended up in a 2-all draw. Arsenal won again.
They're on top of the table.
Yeah, Arsenal are top of the table still. They beat Burnley 2-0.
The EPL. What is that number 3 team? It's a very
Is it Sunderland?
It's not a very common.
Sunderland, yeah. No, Sunderland and Bournemouth are having exemplary seasons. You know,
Yeah.
as I've said before, the Premier League is one of the most unpredictable, entertaining leagues on the planet. So this season there've been a few surprises, you know, coming out. It is interesting. But like, if we can move on to today's games, there are some very interesting Champions League games. Like I said earlier in our past episodes, Champions League is one of the most, you know, dominant, one of the most competitive leagues of the planet. It's where all of Europe's top leagues come together and play in one competition to see who's the best team in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, so we do have a very interesting game between Liverpool and Real Madrid. That's happening today.
Liverpool
versus Madrid.
Yeah.
11 p.m. It's going to be a very, very tense game because I don't know if you remember, but a few years back in the Champions League final, Madrid versus Liverpool, Ramos broke Salah's arm. There's a lot of like outrage on it.
Yeah.
And it's been one of those games whereby it's just not a game. There's a lot of like backstory to it.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a bloodbath, I think. There's also PSG versus Bayern Munich. So that's something as well. That's gonna be you know, last season's winners versus, you know, a past team that won the Champions League as well. So there are games that, you know, you have to keep your eyes on because they're gonna be proper, you know, performances there, and it's gonna be very entertaining. In terms of NFL, just to say that my boy is back. The Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen. MVP.
I need to try and, you know, get a glimpse of some knowledge on NFL.
Josh Allen MVP. He showed Patrick Mahomes as to why he's the best in the league.
Yeah.
Absolutely took over that game. Like, Patrick Mahomes has been MVP, I think, twice or thrice in a row, but couldn't do anything as, you know, last night.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. The Bills' defense, mighty.
Yeah.
The offense, so slick. You know, Josh Allen's power running, his precision passing. That tight end wide receiver Kincaid.
Yeah.
Now they're a real shout for me, honestly. They're a real shout for the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
You know, and if he can replicate what he did last year, and now he has the right pieces with him, why can't they go all the way?
Yeah.
So that's me for sports. Back to my more knowledgeable.
Yeah, it would be wrong for me not to mention how Kenyans, you know, thrashed the New York Marathon that happened over the weekend. But we saw Eliud Kipchoge come around, I think number 17 if I am not wrong. And, you know, I think Kipchoge just shows us, like, you know, he's won all these things, but he's still there. You know, he's not now there to win. I think he actually just goes to now motivate the younger people who are running, the likes of Helen Obiri, who, you know, she thrashed and won the thing. So I feel like, you know, there's a lot to learn from Eliud Kipchoge. You know,
also maybe his real age is now showing.
Because
they were saying that he was, I think, 30 or 20, but
now
he was looking maybe 60 there, man.
Please let me know. Do you think now Eliud Kipchoge should now, you know, just sit down and relax, not even, you know, take part in any race, or just, because me personally, I feel, you know, he should just continue. He's still encouraging more and more people, and we still are proud of him. Let's know what you think. And I think that brings us to a close of today's Coffee on Ngong Road, proudly sponsored by
Bucket Coffee and Pesoko Systems.
Yeah. And today I will leave you with an Ethiopian proverb that says, I actually lost it. I was very, very ready. I was ready.
Get ready.
I was ready. I was very, very ready. He who learns teaches. Just that.
He who learns teaches.
Yeah.
That ties with my point earlier.
Yeah.
Educate yourself till you can pass down the knowledge to the generations.
Exactly. And that's how.
On that good end.
Continue following us and we plug on all our socials, and we'll see you next time on Coffee on Ngong Road.